Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to watch today's video. And guys, I have got something I want to talk about today because I want some answers from you guys. I can't figure this out. Maybe you guys can help me, understand how this even happens. I've been paying close attention over the past couple weeks. Most of all the tournament organizations like Bassmaster, MLF, NPFL, they've announced their rosters for the 2026 season. And in these particular events, like the NPFL and the Bass Pro Tour and the Tackle Warehouse Tour, all that type of stuff, every one of these tournaments has over a $5,000 entry fee. Some of them like $5,800 entry fee. And there's almost full fields. There's like 150 people in these tournaments. So I'm going to pose a question to you guys, and we're going to dig into this. How in the world have we reached a precipice where we've got 400 or 500, anglers out there can afford to pony up $5,000 every tournament to go fish a bass tournament? This is a question I've talked about before. I don't understand it, and I want to dig into that in today's video here. So, also, guys, before we get started, two quick things I want to remind you of. Guys, in addition to thanking everybody for hitting that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling, I just wanted to make everybody aware we do have channel memberships. And as a channel member with Intuitive Angling, guys, you get my personal email address. You can email me all your fishing questions. You get free videos that are private, that aren't seen by the public every week. So just go to my home page and hit the join button for info there. And also, guys, thank you everybody that's been using all the links I put in every video description to support the channel. Big thanks for me and my family there. Okay, guys, you've heard me talk about this a little bit before, but when I when I saw the when I saw the schedules released this year and how many people out there actually committed to paying $5,000, $5,800 per tournament for an entry fee, it made me think about something that I did not understand before. This is one of the things that's fundamentally wrong with tournaments, and we've talked about this a long time, is that when you start getting into a tournament situation where it costs $5,000 to enter a tournament, you have effectively weeded out 99% of the general population from fishing top-level tournaments. It has become a financially elitist sport. The income disparity that exists within this country that allows some people to do that and others that don't has no place in fishing, because it's never been like that before. Back when I started, guys, I've talked about this before, Bassmaster tournaments were $600 entry fees a piece. And the BFLs, which were the Redmans back then, were $50 entry fees a piece. So about anybody that loved to fish could do it. And now, here's the thing, you've got, in our country, you've got the average household income in the United States is like, 70 to 80,000 a year for household income, depending upon what part of the country you live. And now you've got dudes out there that are able to shell out hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to fish tournaments. Because here's the reality of the situation. Let's say that, you've decided to fish the NPFL or the Tackle Warehouse tournament or the Bass Pro tournament. You've got to shell out your $5,000 entry fee. Okay, on top of that, depending upon your travel habits, depending upon where you stay at, and, how conservative or, how much money you throw around, you're going to spend, $2,500 to $3,000 per tournament, maybe more, just for the entries and expenses. So you're looking at, right around $8,000 to fish every single tournament. Every tournament, you got to shell out $8,000. Now, in addition to that, not only that you have to shell out $8,000, you still you got to live a normal life. You got a mortgage to pay, you got house payments, you got probably a boat payment, you got food, you got insurance, you got to get clothes on your kids. So you have another huge financial responsibility just at home aside from tournament fishing. So I think it's safe to say that the average tournament angler that is plopping down all these bucks has got to have they've got to have resources to where they are knocking down $200,000 to $300,000 a year just to fish and live their normal life at home. Give or take, could be a little more, could be a little bit less, but you're looking you're going to have to be knocking down $200,000, $250,000 a year as a professional tournament angler at the top level. So effectively, when you start getting into that income bracket, you've knocked, again, 99% of the people out of the opportunity to fish. And this is one of the things I want to talk about that is just disgusting in the sport, is how we've turned this sport into this financial elitist activity. And I talk about this a lot on the channel, but it didn't really hit me hard until I saw how many of these big tournaments this year and how many people were fishing these tournaments. It's like, where are these guys getting the money at? This is what I want to know from you guys. How is 400 or 500 anglers across this country, and you could add more to that with the Bassmaster Elite Series. The only reason the Bassmaster Elites aren't paying the $5,000 entry fee they used to have to pay is they're sucking it off the Bassmaster Opens. They're sucking it off the Open guys and throwing it to the Elite Series guys so they don't have to pay as much money, but they used to have to pay $5,000 entry fee. So how in the world is that many people can afford to do that? This is what I don't understand. And when you start creating this environment, and this is the fault again of Bassmaster and MLF, when you start jacking these entry fees up through the sky, you start having these unlimited equipment. You know, there's no regulations. It's just a damn free-for-all on equipment. You can have $1,000 or $100,000 worth of cheater boxes on your boat if you want. No limitations whatsoever. Sky's the limit. So when you start creating this environment where it encourages the wealthy anglers to succeed, and the guys that just, you know, live a normal life, it knocks them, you know, it knocks them to the curb. And I don't know, do the tournament organizations want this? Do they just want the freaking guys that have the bank because, you know, they're the ones that are going to buy the products? I don't know. I'm just theorizing with that. But what are we going to do about this? Are we going to continue down this road of turning professional bass fishing into elitist activity, or are we going to put the brakes on it? Because somebody like myself, guys, I was able to make a living as a professional bass angler, and the only reason I was able to make a living as a professional bass angler because I worked part-time jobs. Nobody paid my way. I had to fund everything myself, working, living in the basement, living on the floor of my mom and dad's basement, not having girlfriends, sacrificing so I could scrape together $800 to go to a Bassmaster tournament every time. You don't see that anymore. You see these 20-year-old dudes now rolling in these $200,000 rigs, staying at a $3,000 a week condo, and it knocks so many people out of the sport. And that's what is not right. That when you start taking the dream away from a young angler simply because they don't have the financial resources or their family doesn't have the financial resources, you have diminished so much about what the sport is. Because to me, professional bass fishing was one of those sports that it was the average guy's dream to be able to reach that level. And it's not anymore. Because on top of that, you know, you've got this situation now where, you know, we just talked about how much it costs to fish professionally. You know, you're going to be spending, you know, $100,000 a year to fish. And they're only paying out, like I said, probably 70%, or excuse me, probably about 30% of the field is actually going to get a check. 70% of the guys in these tournaments aren't going to get a check. So let's say that you plop down your $8,000, you know, per tournament expenses and entries, and then you hit this dry spell. And you're going to hit a dry spell, guys. All you dudes out there that think you're bulletproof because you got your live scope and you're just everybody's going to donate to you because you're so good at video game fishing, you're going to hit a dry spell. You're going to go 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5 tournaments in a row where you don't make a check. So after you've gone 3 or 4 or 5 tournaments in a row without making a check, you're now in a position where if you don't win a tournament, and there's only 6 tournaments or 7 tournaments a year, if you don't win one, you're going to lose your butt. And then at the end of that thing, let's say you go for 3 or 4 tournaments without making a check, then you make a couple $10,000 checks. At that point, you've lost $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for the season, and then you got to come up with your entry fees for the next year, the next fall. And here's another thing about it. I think a lot of people have calculated this up before. It's only about, in professional tournament angling, it's only about 10 to 15% of the anglers by the end of the season that they actually come out with a profit. You know, 70, 80, 85% of the rest of the field loses money every single year. I've always talked about this before, it's a dang money pit. And when you create this environment where it's a money pit, you know what it does? It eliminates everybody out there except the financial elite. And it turns the sport, and I talk about this a lot, into a financially elite sport. And that's what it is right now for the most part. There may be a few exceptions to the rule. I don't know, but there's very few. Most of these guys that are entering our sport now are either independently wealthy or they come from family money. And this is the tragedy in the sport of professional fishing that does not get talked about enough. It needs to get talked about a lot, because you have effectively taken the dream away from the people out there that do not have those resources. And the only way that this gets fixed is it goes back again with the tournament organizations. They have got to reduce the entry fees, and they have got to set equipment limitations. And you know what this does? This reflects very poorly on the tournament organization's ability to market their organization. Because if their organization was strong and it was attractive to advertisers, then they would have that money to be able to subsidize the tournaments and not have to basically turn tournament fishing into a big jackpot tournament. That's what it is right now, guys. Tournament bass fishing is nothing but a big jackpot tournament. You might as well get 150 guys together at the boat ramp on Saturday morning and pony up $5,000, and you'd make more money because they don't even pay out 100% in the tournaments. They're sucking off the entry fees of the anglers to put these tournaments on. It's a messed up environment right now, and it's like it's so correctable. There's so many things that can be done to fix this, but like I said, I've talked before, we've got people in positions of power within this industry that do not have the vision and the foresight to do what is right with this. And I'd be glad to give you guys a set of tips and advice to do this. It's easy to do, but for some reason they don't want to do it. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about it. The main question I want to know in this video: how in the world do we have 500 dudes in this country right now that are able to pony up $5,000, $5,500 entry fees per tournament? Where are they coming from? I want to know, because everybody I know, works a normal job and it falls into that range of the $70,000 to $80,000 household income bracket. I don't know many of these dudes that are doing what they're doing. So, let me know, guys. We'll talk later.